Hello everyone, welcome back to PrepBee, and here we are doing one more episode of VARC practice. And today we are going to solve CAT 2023 slot 3 passage. So let's get started. The biggest challenge the nutmeg scores by Ghosh throws down is to the prevailing understanding of when the climate crisis started. Most of us have accepted that it started with the widespread use of coal at the beginning of industrial age in the 18th century and worsened with the mass adoption of oil and natural gas in the 20th. So we are here discussing when did the climate crisis start, and now it started when we used coal in a widespread manner during the 18th century, and it got worse when the mass adoption of oil and gas happened in 20th century. Ghosh takes this history at least 3 centuries back to the start of European colonialism in the 15th century. But however, Ghosh says that this started well in 15th century. He starts the book with the 1621 massacre by Dutch invaders determined to impose a monopoly on nutmeg civilization and trade in the Bandas Islands in today's Indonesia. So he starts the book with the 1621 massacre by this Dutch invaders who determined to impose a monopoly on this civilization and trade in Indonesia. Right. Not only do the Dutch systematically depopulate the islands through genocide, they also try their best to bring nutmeg civilization into plantation mode. So what they are trying to say is that these Dutch, they depopulate the islands. How do they do that? They do genocide and all of that. Right. So the Dutch, they killed the locals, they turned nutmeg civilizations into large plantations, right? So this shift might represent something, the start of viewing nature as something that can be controlled or exploited, right? These are the 2 points to which Ghosh returns through examples from around the world. One, how European colonialists decimated not only indigenous populations, but also indigenous understanding of the relationship between humans and earth. Two, how this was an invasion of not only humans, but of the earth itself, and how this continues to the present day, looking at nature as a resource to exploit. So Ghosh repeatedly highlights two main ideas through these global examples. So the book's central arguments are reinforced with multiple examples worldwide. First is what the colonialists they destroyed both local populations and their ideas about living with nature. That means that the colonial mindset it disrupted native ways of relating to the environment. And second, colonialism exploited both people and nature, which continues even today by treating nature as a resource which can be exploited. We know we are facing more frequent and more severe heat waves, storms, floods, droughts, and wildfires due to climate change. We know our expansion through deforestation, uh, dam building, canal cutting, in short, terraforming, the word Ghosh uses. He brought us repeated disasters. Are these the responses of an angry Gaia who has finally had enough? So today we see more intense storms, floods, droughts, all of that, right? Because of the climate change. Actions like deforestation, dam building, and all of these have caused disasters, which Ghosh calls terraforming. All right. So the Ghosh asks that could these disasters be nature's way of responding to human harm? All right. By using the word curse in the title, the author makes it clear that he thinks so. So the Ghosh uses curse in his title and thinks that yes, this is nature's way of responding to the harm that we use. I use the pronoun who willingly because Ghosh has quoted many non-European sources to inquire into the relationships between human and the world around them so that he can question the prevalent way of looking at Earth as an inert object to be exploited to the maximum. So here Ghosh uses ideas from non-European cultures to question seeing Earth as just an object to explore. Alright, now as Ghosh text, notes and bibliography show once more none of this is new. There has always been challenges to the way European colonialists looked at other civilizations and at Earth. It's just that invaders and their varied backers in the fields of economics, politics, anthropology, philosophy, literature, technology, physics, chemistry, biology have dominated global intellectual discourse. All right. Now Ghost research shows that all these ideas of exploitation, they are not new. Right? Many have questioned how colonialists viewed other cultures and nature, and colonial powers and their supporters in various fields have dominated the global thinking, is what the author is trying to say here. Right. There are other points of that we can hear today if we listen hard enough. Those observing global climate negotiations know about the Latin American way of looking at Earth as Pachamama, Earth Mother. They also know how such a framing is just provided lip service and is ignored in the substantive portions of the negotiation. The nutmeg curse, Bush explains why. He shows the extent of the vested interest in the oil economy, not only for oil exporting countries, but also for a superpower like the US that controls oil drilling, oil prices, and oil movement around the world. Many of us know power utilities are sabotaging decentralized solar power generation today because it hits their revenues and controls, and how the other points of views are so often drowned out. So here, the author is trying to say that there are other perspectives that exist. If we really pay attention, that means alternative ways of thinking about the earth is still available. Climate talks recognize Latin Americans' view to view earth as earth mother. So this perspective sees earth as a living being, deserving of respect. Right. So this view is often mentioned, but they are really ignored in the actual decisions. So they are acknowledged only in words, but not in the policies. So Ghosh explains why exactly in the nutmeg curse. He addresses why these alternatives are ignored. Ghosh describes that how many powerful groups rely on oil, including the US, which controls the oil market. So that means that the global economy's dependence on oil is a major reason why other perspectives on Earth, right? So power companies often they block solar power because it reduces their profits and controls. That means that companies with interest in traditional energy resist changes that would empower people and help the environment. So alternative views are almost silenced. That means that voices that challenge the dominant view, they are drowned out. All right. So because one is oil movement, uh, we rely too much on oil, we rely too much on these traditional resources that we do not care about environment. We have our economic dependency on this, and hence we continue to exploit. All right. This is what the author is trying to say. Now let's look at questions. On the basis of information in the passage, which of the following is not a reason for the failure of policies to seeking to address climate change? The greed of organizations benefiting from non-renewable energy sources. Here it is very well explained that we depend too much on that. There is economic dependency, and hence and there is a lot of profit. The marginalized status of non-European ways of looking at nature and the environment. This paragraph talks about it. Then the decentralized characteristics of renewable energy resources like solar power. They do not talk about the, you know, this is not decentralized characteristics is not a reason for failure of policies. This is just a statement, right? We'll hold on to this. Global dominance of oil economies. Yes, it is very well given. So third is your answer. Which one of the following best explains the primary purpose of discussion of the colonization of the Banda Islands in the Nutmeg Squares? So the primary purpose of discussion of the colonization to illustrate how systematic violence against the colonized constituted the cornerstone of colonialism. We are not really bothered about the colonial society, but we are more bothered about the climate change that it has brought. To illustrate the first instance in history where the processes responsible for climate change were initiated. First instances we don't know. कोई 18th century बोलता है, कोई 20 बोलता है, कोई 15th बोलता है. We don't know if it is really the first instance, if it has initiated. So distortion. The role played by the cultivation of certain crops in plantation mode. We don't know what crops they are talking about. Very distorted. Then to illustrate how colonialism represented and perpetuated the mindset that it has led to climate change. This is what they are talking. Now, all of the following can be inferred except Academic can be inferred from the reviewer's discussion. Except the academic discourses have always served the function of raising awareness about environmental preservation. We do not talk about this, so hold on to this. Environmental preservation policymakers can learn a lot from non-European or pre-colonial societies. Yes, that is given. The contemporary dominant perception of nature and the environment was put place by processes of colonialism. Yes. The history of climate change is deeply intertwined with the history of colonialism. Yes, it is given. So first is your answer. Which one of the following, if true, would make the reviewer's choice of the pronoun who per Gaya inappropriate? Why did they use who? Here it is written, right? We use pronoun who. Somewhere it has been given. Let's search. I use the pronoun who knowingly because Ghosh has quoted many non-European sources to inquire into relationships of humans and the world around them, so that he can question the prevalent way of looking at Earth as an inert object to be exploited. Right. So, which of the following, if true, would make the reviewer's choice of the pronoun who for Gaia inappropriate? All right. Modern Western science discovers new evidence for Earth being an inanimate object. This would make it appropriate because we are talking about how we are exploiting Earth and how it has been seen as an object like that. Ghosh Books has a different title, Nutmeg's Revenge. Very irrelevant. We do not care about this. How would it make inappropriate? Non-European societies have perceived the earth as a non-living source of all resources. Here we look at it as a living source of resources. If we talk about non-living source, then everything changes. Hence, 3 is your option. Right? Now let's go to the fifth one. You need to see where we can put this option. For theoretical purposes, arguments may be considered as freestanding entities abstracted from their context of use in actual human activities. All right. An argument can be defined as a complex symbolic structure where some parts known as the premises offer support to another part, the conclusion. Alternatively, an argument can be viewed as a complex speech act consisting of one or more acts of premising, which asserts proposition in favor of the conclusion, an act of concluding, and a stated or implicit marker. Hence, therefore, that indicates that the conclusion follows from the premises. For theoretical processes purposes, one to nahi aayega. First, it is defining what an argument is, right? The relation of support between premises. Here, we are talking about premises and conclusions, and we cannot put this one in second as well because the continuation of premises and the conclusions come. So, premises may guarantee the truth of the conclusion or make the truth more probable. The premises may imply the conclusion. The premises may make the conclusion more acceptable or assertable. Right? Now, but depending on one's explanatory goals, there is much more to be gained from considering arguments as they, in fact, occur in human communicative practices. Right? Now, here we can put this one for theoretical purposes. It may be considered as a freestanding entities abstracted from their context of use in human activities. Right? Here we are talking about human communicative practices, and here we are talking about human activities, which actually introduces the topic. So we can put here 3. So option 4 is your answer. We'll put it in the third one. Now, beyond undermining the monopoly of the state on the use of force, armed conflict also creates an environment that can enable organized crime to prosper. I'm so sorry. Beyond undermining the monopoly of the state on the use of force, armed conflict also creates an environment that can enable organized crime to prosper. Cannot be the starting of the statement because of the marked higher Linkages between illicit arms, organized crime, and armed conflict can reinforce one another while also escalating and prolonging violence and eroding governance. All right. So linkages between arms, crime, and all of this can reinforce one another while also escalating violence and eroding governance. Financial gains from crime can lengthen or intensify armed conflicts by creating revenue streams for NSAGs. All right. In this context, when hostilities cease and parties to a conflict move towards a peaceful resolution, the widespread availability of surplus arms and ammunition can contribute to a situation of criminalized peace that obstructs sustainable peace building efforts. Here we are talking about the state groups and non-state groups. And here we are talking about monopoly of the state on the use of force. Here we are talking about, how it can intensify financial gains. They can intensify creating revenue streams for non-state armed groups. And beyond just undermining the monopoly of the state on the use of this, it can also create an environment that can enable crime to prosper. This thing can lead to this one. Now, in this context, when these parties they move towards peaceful resolution, something might happen. So we'll put that in three. Option three. Option four, I mean here fourth one, we'll put it here. All right. And I hope this is clear. If you have any kind of doubts, do drop it in the comment box and we'll be happy to help. Thank you and best of luck for your exams.